Hey, what's up, everybody? It's the Z-Man, the Mud Shark, the Man in Black, Mr. I-75, the soon-to-be Lawson's Chip Dip consumer, coming at you live and direct from Tampa, Florida. Hey, what's going on, everybody? If you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcast, thank you so much. I put 1 and 2 out for free each week. I encourage you to go to my YouTube page, Sit Down Zumock, where I pretty much broadcast 4 days a week live on YouTube every afternoon. Kumia's Cucks, Mondays with Mazer, The Ray DeVito Show, Sit Down Zumock. And I encourage you to visit my Patreon, which you could sign up for as little as $3, patreon.com/sitdownzumock. I put a lot of this stuff behind of a paywall because there's channel strikers out there, and there's more of a visual aspect than there is an audio aspect. But I do appreciate everyone listening to the show. I do appreciate that. Thank you very much. That's how I listen to my podcast, audio, when I'm riding my bike or at the gym. So if you could be so kind, share it with a friend. If you don't want to sign up to the Patreon or get a membership on YouTube, you can subscribe to YouTube on free. It's for free. So check that out. Today's episode is a flashback, ladies and gentlemen. It's a show I did during the COVID lockdowns. And I was doing all these audio-only shows before I start doing the YouTube stuff. And I got to do one of a bucket list shows with one of my favorite wrestlers growing up, which was Sid Vicious. Some know him as Sid Justice when he went to the WWF. Pyscho Sid. His real name was Sid Eudy. He was a professional wrestler, and he died at the age of 63 fighting cancer. Fuck cancer. But he was a beast. Some of my fondest memories were watching him wrestle with my friends, the Dunlaps, Ben, Nick. We'd go to WCW events, pay-per-views. I'd rent VHS movies. But he's no longer with us as we get older. These icons die and they go away, but they're never forgotten. So this is my conversation where we did a Swapcast with Sit Down Zumock and Sid Vicious's podcast. And this is the conversation we had. I hope you enjoy it. You know, for any Sid Vicious fans out there or his family that's going to listen, what a great honor, what a great athlete. And it was really cool to do this. So I hope you enjoy it. And again, check out the YouTube, check out the Patreon. Mud Shark is out. On the hotline, we have legendary professional wrestling heavyweight champion legend, Sid Eudy. Now, Sid, what form of Sid do you like? Vicious, Justice, or Psycho?
Let's just go Sid Vicious.
All right. I like that. You know, I'm a stand-up comedian. I don't know if you were briefed on this, but as a young man, you were a big impact in my young years just watching you on WCW. I remember the earlier years with you tag teaming with Dangerous Dan Spivey. That's when I first became aware with you.
Right. What happened there was I met Eddie Gilbert. Eddie Gilbert was one of the bookers in WCW at the time. They brought me in, and then he came up with the idea to put me with Danny Spivey. I was really inexperienced at the time and just learning everything. I hadn't been in the business maybe right about a year. So the idea about putting me with Danny put me with somebody who's really smart, knows the business, you know, and I won't go into a long detailed story, but Danny pretty much, and Eddie too, held my hand and put me in the right direction to do the right things to be successful in the wrestling business. And that was Danny's part, and Danny had a big part of me being successful as well.
That's also when like tag teams were like pretty awesome back in the day. Like you had the Steiner Brothers, the Road Warriors. Like the tag teams then compared to now were way better, in my opinion.
Well, you had the Freebirds, you had Rocco Express. It just goes on, you know. Powers of Pain, Stan Hansen and Vader, they tagged up sometime. Me and Stan tagged up sometime. It was a Dr. Death and Steve, Gordy. What was his first name? Anyway, one of the Freebirds.
Yeah. Terry Gordy.
Terry Gordy, right. Just man, like I said, it was just, they were everywhere. Great tag teams everywhere.
Yeah, and around that time, that's when I started really watching, and I remember just wearing out the VHS tapes because you could rent those old pay-per-views, I remember. And then I remember when you joined the Four Horsemen, that was a big deal to me because it was you and Brian Pillman, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember Brian being in it. It was me, Barry, Arn, and Rick. It
was Barry Windham. I'm sorry, because he was eventually in it, like when it was in its last carnation. You're right. It was Barry Windham.
I think you're right, yeah.
But that's like when I was at the time as a young man just watching wrestling going, oh man, this is my favorite. And I still remember your WWE debut, like when you came in WWF at the time. I was like kind of pissed off you changed your last name to Justice. I was like, it's vicious, man.
Yeah, that was Vince and them. They just weren't comfortable with using that name. Why, I don't know. But still, it just never did feel the same.
Now, I know a lot of wrestling nerds are going to be mad at me because I stopped it like when the wars were over. Like, I still kind of tap in every now and then. I'm friends with a couple of the guys. But I considered your heyday the best. Almost like right now they're airing The Last Dance on ESPN about Michael Jordan, like the early 90s. I think basketball, music, wrestling, it was all at the best. Call me an old guy like back in my day, but back in my day, stuff was better.
No, I think you're right. I think sometimes when we see the popularity reach its height, I don't think in all sports popularity is not as popular now as it was back then. Everything was more fun. College basketball, everything. I don't know what's taking some of the pizzazz out of it. But again, you're right. I think we look back at Chicago Bulls. That was like you said, you can't beat 6 championships in a row. It's hard to argue with what you just said.
But even like you just said, college basketball, I used to be able to name players like Christian Laettner, and I don't even know who plays for who now at this point.
No, me too, yeah. And I watch college basketball religiously. It's just everything changes so fast now.
Yeah, what's your squad? Did you play ball? Because you're a big dude.
No, I played a little bit in high school, football, basketball, and baseball, but never in college. Now, I'll tell you, Chad, I go for tradition. I was always an Indiana Bob Knight fan when I was younger. And then I started betting on basketball the year that NC State won it all.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know who NC State was, but I started, I bet every game from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, every game that was played. And you just get to know those teams after a while, even if you don't see them play. And at the end there, I realized what it was. They was missing Derek Wittenberg with all those losses. So I jumped on them, man, and took them all the way to the national championship and got 9.5 points. And actually bet with one guy straight up that they would win. And they won, of course, by that last basket. So when you get involved in something like college basketball, to me, that was the greatest year of college basketball, what I'm talking about right now. So, but again, it's when you get hooked on something like that, then it's easy to follow it the rest of your life.
Yeah, at the time, I was like a big Florida State guy. I loved Bobby Sura, Charlie Ward, Sam Cassell. So I remember all those old squads, and you filled out those brackets. And like you said, I'm throwing down money. Like, you're invested in it.
Well, I never bet more than $5 a game in the beginning of the year because I didn't know any of the teams. But if you bet every game, you got to change the point spread 1 point one way or the other. And trust me, when you start betting on college basketball and it gets to the last, middle season on, it's weird how those games come within a half a point. It's just unreal. And that's what's so good about putting $5 on a game is that, man, in college basketball, you're up and you're down. You're up and you're down. You're up and you're down. And again, you don't know. 4 seconds can seem like 30 minutes, in college basketball.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's that's what's exciting about it. I'm a big hoops dude for sure, but I lost a lot of money because of basketball. So, but it does make it exciting.
It does.
Now, you said you played football. Did you go to school? Because I know I saw some interview with you on YouTube that you were trying out for the XFL before you got into wrestling. Is that true?
It wasn't XFL. It was the USFL. That's when Reggie White played for the Showboats. Actually, Lex Luger, a lot of people don't know that, played for the Showboats. I guess that was Donald Trump's league that didn't last, but I think 1 season, 2 seasons, something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
They had a walk-on tryout here in Memphis, and I went to it. And then I think it was actually 2 years. And then I got invited to the Houston Gamblers, which USFL as well. And they told me there, the coach said, man, this thing is fixing to fold. If we had thought the thing was going to last, we would have kept you. And so then I started exploring about getting a walk-on scholarship at one of these small colleges like Arkansas State. And then that's where I met Randy Savage and Hillbilly Jim and Lanny Poffo at a gym over in Memphis. And then the rest is history.
What position did you play? Tight end? Like what? Like you're like what?
I played defensive end and running back, believe it or not.
Oh, you're a fast guy.
Yeah.
Well, you were an agile dude too, because you could always do those like jump up from your feet. So you had some athletic ability for sure.
Well, that all comes from, believe it or not, you talk about nip up and stuff like that. That came from taking gymnastics. That was from boxing a little bit when I went to a school called St. Michael's, a Catholic school here in West Memphis. But so when people see me do the nip up, that's where I learned it. Is taking gymnastics and any Golden Glove program is pretty much a necessity.
That's impressive. I'm 5'9" and I can't do that. And your size, you're so agile. It was really impressive to see at the time.
Well, too, as I've got really, I guess, explosive, fast twitch muscles where, even at 330 pounds, I ran a 4.8. It was a 4.89, but still 4.8, 40. I had the longest broad jump, the highest vertical, just real weird stuff like that,
Do you think at the time I'm drawing a blank right now with the just mixed martial arts in general, if that was a popular thing with Dana White and everything, would you have joined that? Would you have been interested in that?
Yeah, I would have. I know even today I still box pretty. That's what I do for training right now. I go to a boxing facility in Memphis called Memphis Judo and Jiu-Jitsu, and they have a boxing facility in the back, and I do all those footworks and the sleds and all that stuff. It's just it's less wear and tear, a lot of cardio, but I've always had good hands. I would have loved had a chance to have done some freestyle wrestling. I think I would have done the few times I've participated in it with a few guys who were actually pretty good. I did pretty good, so I think if I would have had a chance at that, I would have loved to try that mixed martial arts.
I think a dream matchup would be you and Brock Lesnar, considering like how big he is. I think that would have been a great heavyweight bout, like both in wrestling and in the UFC.
Right. I think both of them have been pretty good. Again, if in the perfect world, if I would have had a great collegiate beginning and then had just that little boxing I had and then could have polished those together, I think I would have done pretty good.
That's great. I mean, what are you in your late 50s at this point?
59, is about as late as you can get.
That's pretty impressive. You're still at the boxing gym. That's awesome.
Right. Of course, there's nothing open right now, but.
Yeah, that's true. Now, you said you're 59 years old, and just, honestly, I did a little homework on this, and, they have a list of professional wrestlers that have died before the age of 55, and it's just massive. I mean, you being a survivor and a guy to tell your story, I mean, when you take a look back on that, are you just like at awe of what you've accomplished, and do you have any good memories of some of the people that have passed?
I don't really think of myself, Chad, in awe of what I did. It was a lot of hard work, and if you want to have something in the world, you just have to work hard. So I don't think I did anything special to accomplish things. I know I worked harder than most people did to accomplish things I did, but that's for me, and I don't think a lot about it. I do think about what you said, the second part of some of the guys that passed away, and I've got really, I won't go into it right now, write a book about some of these things. Not just about that, about my life as a child and my wrestling career, but some of the stories about that. And I do want to write a book just about that. if I could get some more stories about people, how their last months or last year was, stuff like that. But I'll tell you, and I'm not trying to beat anybody down, but I was watching that Dark Side of the Ring.
Oh, yeah.
About Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero. And this is where, Chad, bothers me. I could give you at least 5 or 6 people I know personally that this happened to. And Eddie Guerrero's wife said this, and I'm not downing anyone, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But she said, she was leaving Eddie there possibly on a second or third overdose, and said something in a sort of in a way I can't word for word, but it's like, I hope it's painless, or I hope, something like, okay, he's dying, stop and help him, and I know that there's a lot of people that did that passed like that. Personally, that I know some of their stories that all it had to be was just a phone call, and maybe that could have been a different outcome. But tragically, it wasn't.
You had a lot of injuries in your career. Did you ever experience a concussion or PTSD or anything like that?
Yeah, I think I have. I don't like talking about it, but I know now I have just a little bit of problem. Of course, it didn't help to be 59. But, that, and I'll tell you something too, and I won't go into it, but they say this: if you miss an hour's sleep in a week and miss a meal in a week, and that happens for 2 or 3 weeks, and that the first forms of stress, and if that continues happening, then one little silly thing happened, maybe like an argument with someone or a small accident that didn't really amount to anything, you could be then in the first forms of simple depression. Now, I'm not trying to beat down the doors of any start anything here, but again, knowing that that's what doctors say, because they said that to me, okay,
mm-hmm.
that you can't help to think that there's a big majority of people in the business, not just guys, but the women too, that have to be suffering from some forms of simple depression. And I think from that went to the other things, and I think that's why you see all these accidental overdoses.
I've been public about mine on radio and podcasts about talking about what I've gone through with depression and dealing with that. So
right.
If you take the physical aspect of that and just the amount of banging and all that. I watched that Aaron Hernandez documentary, and it's just, there's something there. There's something to be said about that.
No, there really is, Chad. Of course, you or I aren't doctors. We don't know what's going on, but we've both experienced a little bit, and like you, like myself, we have, I guess, both dealt with depression. And I volunteer myself to go to my own counselor about once every couple of weeks, just to have someone to talk to, just to find out if some of the things I'm thinking, or just be sure they're right. Be sure I'm not making the wrong decision, because when you're in depression, they say you're not supposed to make a simple decision as buying a used vehicle. So knowing the doctors have told me that, I'm not trying to make any mistakes. So I'll ask the doctor to be sure I'm making the right decisions.
No, that's exactly. And it's one of those things that you constantly got to monitor. You can't you're just like one day, like, okay, I'm healthy. No, you got to continue to work at it. Just like if you were like working on your cardio, you got to just continue to maintain that. So that's great that you're doing it.
No, you have to, Chad. And I think everybody, not everybody, but I think the majority of people, as we get older, that's something that's always going to be there. We're having to learn how to deal with just simple things that our body's slowing down, the heart slows down, everything starts slowing down. We got to learn how to deal with that, and we've got to recognize that it's not the end of the world. That's part of it. Pick yourself up, take another step forward, and keep moving on.
Now, the parallels between wrestlers and comics are so similar. I went to college with Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, and I just did a show with him in Minnesota like 2 years ago, and we talked about how it's so nomadic. We're flying around hotels, and after a while, it just takes a toll on you. Like, I'm 16 years into stand-up comedy, and like I just want to I feel like I did a good job. I had a great career. I almost want to check out on the other half. At one point, I know your last match was in 2017, where you were like, "I'm good. I did everything I could do. I left it all in the ring."
Right.
Was there a point where you're just like, I'm good? Like I did it. There's nothing else I can prove at this point?
Well, no, there was something I did want to prove. Right after I got back from breaking my leg, I was trying to figure out what I could do. Just couldn't get the thing worked out with the WWE. Couldn't get them to even answer their phone. So, but I've gotten over that now. I'm not really worried about that anymore. So I'm like you. I wanted to get out before I broke my leg. I just wanted to get out. I wanted to finish my career. I didn't want to just leave it in the middle of limbo like that. I wanted to come up with an idea to finish off, to really just, try to think of the best ending of a career that anyone could have thought of. And I think I really had a pretty good one. But again, I never got a chance to exercise it. So, but still, no, at this point now, I don't really think about the negatives. I'm glad to be where I'm at today. And I've got my grandson now, and that is more important than all the wrestling stuff in the world.
Congratulations, by the way. Now your two sons, I think one of your sons is wrestling, according to my research. Is that true?
No. What happened was I did a documentary that I put in film festivals called The Promotion. I did a little film. I like filming, making projects like that and doing projects like that. And I needed someone to stand in as a character I used to wrestle as Lord Humongous, and he did that for me, and that was the extent of that.
Oh, okay.
He did a really good job of it, though.
I love how those folklores just take, they just create their own things. Like one of the questions I said on my social media, I'm interviewing you today, and the number one question was, ask him about softball. It was like the number one question. Like, are you supposed to be some unbelievable softball player?
Yeah, I used to be pretty good. Now, what happened there was, there was a couple situations in my life during the wrestling career that called for a little time off. One is after my lung surgery, and so that's I guess doing a lot of softball playing while I was rehabbing. People started picking up on that. Then there was another time that I was in between contracts and I played a little softball, and people thought I actually took time off to play softball, which was not true. But I did enjoy playing softball. You
were kind of like the Michael Jordan of softball. You were moving
no, dude, I was the Babe Ruth. There's a big difference. I like Michael Jordan, okay, but he's not Babe Ruth. And not Babe Ruth is just, that's the name that means you're the best at everything. He was a good pitcher and a hitter, but no. And then basketball is basketball, but no, I could hit. I remember a couple seasons, I had more home runs than all other teams combined.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what this was a league you were in?
Yeah.
You were the original Bash brother. You're like Canseco McGuire, just going deep.
Almost every time, man. And I didn't count them either, Chad. I'm not bragging, but I didn't count them unless they went over the lights, not over the fence, but over the lights. If I didn't hit it over the lights, I wouldn't impressed.
That's hilarious. So there was like rumors that you would take time off for the softball league. Is that true?
I just said no. The people said that, but I never did.
Oh, okay.
No. It just seemed like that. One was an injury where I had a lung repaired, and I was waiting to put some weight back on, and I was playing softball. I actually came back to work. They said, no, go back home and put some more weight back on. I lost a lot of weight during my lung surgery. And then one time I was in between contracts, but it seemed like that, but that wasn't the case.
Okay. Now I want to go back to, you said your son stood in for you in a documentary, and he was playing Lord Humongous, and that was actually one of your first characters in wrestling. And it's weird how wrestling kind of bit off the Road Warrior a lot, the Mel Gibson movie. They took a lot of even the Road Warriors, they were kind of that one, I forgot the name of the character, the actor that played him, but that seemed like it was a big inspiration for a lot of characters in wrestling.
Right. No, I guess it was a few of us, but not as far as the average of all the people in the business. But no, there was a few people that played off of it.
Now, when you get to WCW, do you get to be Sid Vicious? Is that something you come up with? Is that your creation, or is it like Eric Bischoff? I don't know who was running the thing.
No, it was Eddie Gilbert and Kevin Sullivan were the main two people in charge at the time. And actually, I had left Continental as Lord Humongous and went to Memphis and came up with a character named Sid Vicious. My wife had got me a black vest and black chaps from Sears and Roebuck, cost $45, and then I cut my hair real short and put some cream, some Brill cream in it, slicked it back. That was the first version of Sid Vicious, and then started from there, and then get called into WCW, and Sid Vicious took off.
Now, when do you buy the body glove elbow sleeve?
After I tear my bicep.
Okay. That's what I remember when I was, because it was body glove. Like, I want one of those.
Yeah.
Now, are you in Memphis now?
I live outside Memphis, right across the state line in Marion, Arkansas.
Okay. Are you cool with Jerry Lawler? Because I know he lives out there, right?
Yeah, we get along pretty good.
You ever ride in his Batmobile?
No.
Are there wrestlers that from the business you still keep in touch with, or are you just like, I got my family, it was back in the day, it is what it is?
No, I keep in touch with a few guys that I started up with, and then I call a couple guys like Carl Willett up in Montreal that we used to ride together in WWF, and I see a lot of these guys, these autograph signings, and I'll get their numbers and call them back once in a while.
Do you get a kick out of like guys like me who are just like, you were part of our childhood, like you take us back to a memory? Like I can still remember sitting in front of the TV. I mean, there's got to be a million of me coming up to you at these autograph signings.
No, that to me right now is probably, maybe I'm more shocked right now that people still remember me more than I was, say, back in my heyday. That people, it means more to me now than it ever has.
Well, I just had John Schneider on my podcast. He was Bo Duke on the Dukes of Hazzard.
Right.
And we were talking about TV back in the day, even like in the 90s and late 80s. There wasn't a lot of channels. Cable was there, so the WWF and WCW was huge. It was on all the time.
Right.
You had WTBS. I remember it was a Turner thing, but even up north where I grew up, it was always on cable. So I constantly watched you. Like even when I didn't want to watch, it was on.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask a couple more, but this is coming from a fan, Jeremy. He wanted to know your favorite person to wrestle and least favorite.
Man, there's just so many favorites. I'll go with a couple. People would probably tired to hear this, but Bam Bam Bigelow is probably my most favorite. I like big guys. I liked him, and Vader was so much fun to work with. And then people like Shawn Michaels and Sting, their style was, those two guys are probably most favorite right there. And then some of the most least favorite would probably be,
probably the Warrior. I read that.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. That is the least. I mean, as far as someone who's supposed to be a top guy, you could say I could come up with a million underneath guys, but someone who's supposed to be a top guy, that would be my least favorite. He was horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, he wasn't technically savvy in the ring.
That he was just mentally not savvy either. It's like he talked to the ceiling when we were talking over spots, and I thought one time maybe I was being filmed in the locker room. It was just me and him. I go, is someone filming me listening to this guy,
Like you were being punked?
Yeah, I thought that's what it was. And I went out and talked to Jack Lange. I said, man, is this real? And he looked at me too like, man, I guess he knew how weird this guy was. And I said, man, that's actually when I gave my notice with the WWF. I said, I can't take this anymore.
You had enough.
I really did. I went home and didn't go back.
That's fantastic. And the one question I wanted to save this one for the last because you're gonna love it. I'm sure you've been asked a million times, but I need because I've watched it a million times on YouTube. I need some backstory to the great segment of all time on Flair for the Gold with the Shockmaster himself. Like, what the hell happened there? What were you thinking? I mean, were you laughing? Like, can you give me some inside perspective on the Shockmaster?
I'm going to give you the inside scoop. During that day during rehearsal, we were sitting there. This before they had the wall up. They just had the 2x4 studs on the floor and on the standing upright where the wall would be. And he said, yeah, Fred's going to come walking right through here, blah, blah, blah. I said, you think it might be a good idea to knock out that 2x4 stud? He might trip on that on the way through, even that the wall is supposed to open up,
Yeah.
And they said, man, you don't know what you're talking about. And so that's exactly what happened. And if you listen really carefully, you can hear me say in the background, I told you so. And people hear that a lot of people hear that. So if you listen really careful, you'll hear me say, I told you so. And you'll see us. We just kept walking like there was nothing wrong,
How did you not break character? Because it cuts back to you and you're still intense. Like, how do you stay in the moment?
Well, because I told him, that afternoon around 2:00 that was going to happen, so it wasn't a shock.
He didn't shock you? The Shockmaster never shocked you?
No, I just saw that last night after he was doing something on after the Dark Side of the Ring, and they showed that. And actually, that's the first time I've seen it that clearly. And that was pretty horrible.
It's a complete mess. Davey Boy Smith has his back to the camera. It's a horrible segment, the whole thing. And then they got that. Who did that terrible voiceover? Because you said Fred did the actual Shockmaster.
Ole Anderson.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Right.
From top to bottom was a mess. He's wearing a Stormtrooper glittered helmet, and he's wearing blue jeans.
Right. That was a Dusty Rhodes idea.
Oh man, it's one of those great stories though. It's you got to look back and laugh. Like you said, you saw it and you were laughing.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap this thing up, but before I do, are you a fan of comedy, stand-up? Do you like stand-up comedy?
I used to be. It's been so long since I've watched any stand-up comedy, but I just haven't get a chance to go out and watch that kind of stuff anymore, but I used to be.
Okay. Because you're a funny guy in those, I don't know if you ever had any kind of, because a lot of these wrestlers, when they can't do it anymore, like I did a gig with Mick Foley, like these guys go out and they do a good job with that. I didn't know if that was any interest on your end to go do some storytelling.
Sometimes, I think when I want to make people laugh, I can make people laugh. So, but it's something I've thought about a little bit. So maybe if I do, we'll get back with you.
All right, there you go. Well, I can't thank you enough for your time, and you're a legend in the business, and it's really cool to talk to my heroes, and I can't wish you nothing but the best, you and your family, and I'm glad this happened, and thank you for your time.
You too, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, Sid. You too, buddy. All right, that was the legendary Sid Vicious on the Sit Down Zumock podcast. How about that? I fucked that interview up. I couldn't get out UFC for some reason. I don't know. I drew a blank on UFC. I was like, mixed martial arts. All right. Well, that was fun. That was good to talk to a guy I watched on TV growing up. I got everything out. The one thing I forgot to ask is if he ever faced Andre the Giant, because I just watched the Andre the Giant documentary on HBO produced by Bill Simmons, and I forgot to ask him that question. Damn it. What are you going to do? It is what it is. And there it is. Sid Vicious. He didn't like Justice. He didn't like Psycho Sid. And he didn't like his real name, Sid Eudy. I don't know if he just likes the old school Sid Vicious, and I'm down with that. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to the podcast today. If you can go to iTunes, 5-star review, that'd be great. And sign up for the Patreon. I put this up a week early. You get additional content, additional episodes, giveaways. Patreon.com/sitdownzumock. With that being said, I'm Chad Zumock, the Z-Man. That's a wrap.
Man laughs at God's plan. God laughs at man's trash. Man plans.
Let it be what it is. Fight the power for the kids who don't know. You may ask yourself, figure it out. Bad news is bad news. The damn plan got you confused. Good news, no good news. Ghetto burbs, see them as views. Am I radical? Am I a pacifist? Am I scared to fight? I ain't asking you. Am I grown? Do I stand